Hello, Keller Williams Prosperity. Happy
Morning.
Friday. Good morning. This is our first day of our Shift series, and today we're going to be covering pages 1 to 17. So that's the introduction through part 1. So really what we're going to be covering today is, like I mentioned, the introduction, the anatomy of a shift, seasonality in business versus an economic shift over a longer period of time, over a couple of years. We'll be talking about the law of equilibrium and then the resilience factor. We'll close out with the resilience factor. So really to start, Mary Beth, as I was reading the introduction, the thing that really resonated with me and what makes this book, which was written, the Shift book, written in 2009, so relevant today and what makes Gary Keller such a valid person to be delivering this information is the fact that he started his business, real estate business, during a shifting market and thrived. He
Sure. I think 22
Yep,
in Austin, Texas.
yep, very young, and he ended up thriving. He then launched Keller Williams during a shift and ended up really growing his company. And then
That
through
was, I
the
believe, in
last
like
shift,
87, we went franchise. I think
yep,
83 is when we started.
yeah, and so he launched that during another shift. And then during the last shift in 08, 09 was really when Keller Williams became, during the last shift, number one in the industry. And
Yeah.
I think one of the things that you said yesterday, which is very true, I think we as a company are more positioned than any other company to thrive through this upcoming shift just because we have the technology, the resources to be able to really create a bunker for our agents.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's amazing that he foresaw where we were going in technology, because it's now things just happen for a reason. So we see why that is such a important tool for us right now, where he's taken us with that. And just to be with a leader that has experienced multiple market shifts and how to get through it and then thrive from it. The residual effects, I believe, that are coming from this shift are going to be very sweet for us if we move on the opportunities.
Absolutely. So I guess as we shift from the introduction into part one, the first part of the section really is about, it's titled Shifts Happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things that
Shift happens.
shifts happen, yeah. I think one of the things that Gary mentioned on his call with Jay on Monday, which really resonated with me, was simply that Gary said that shifts don't happen gradually, they typically happen suddenly. And I think a lot of us have that perception where, okay, a shift's coming, and it will like gradually happen over a couple months. But what Gary was saying is that shifts happen suddenly. And in this case, it could be the coronavirus that is making this shift happen suddenly, since there were signs of a
Yeah,
recession coming.
true. And it's so true. Our agents, they really do prepare seasonally
Yep.
for the spring market, the fall market, and we know when to expect the bulk of our income,
Yep.
which is typically between that April to August. And then you have your winter, which typically will die off in units and volume. And yet there's still some agents that do extremely well in that time of our market, just annually, right? We know some agents that they're kind of cleaner uppers, fourth quarter cleaner uppers.
Yep. And I would say, to your point, I think most people in our industry protect around that. They really build their businesses to
They
where,
do.
you know, whether it's through expenses, whether it's through, managing expenses better in those winter months, or being a little bit looser sometimes in the spring.
Yeah.
I think they have an idea of how they want to run their business. Yet one of the things that it says at the end of the section of shifts is the real estate industry has learned to live with regular seasonal cycles, but it is always challenged by irregular economic shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's something that we're experiencing now is, whether it's the industry, there is that kind of panic heading into this, but we've been here before,
Yeah.
and you've kind of touched on that.
Yeah. Um, the other thing I was thinking when you were talking there is our agents take vacations even
Mhm.
seasonally. They know when they're going to be down on listings. They know when they're going to be down on closings. And then we also know that there's a remedy to make sure that we have more listings coming on. And so now we're dealing in a very different challenge
Yep,
in this shift than the last few shifts.
yep,
But I would say the other thing that I was thinking of is seasonally, our area experiences that. But I also know some agents like in Florida that don't so much experience that because
Yeah.
they're not a four-season market. So I think our agents have a better chance of understanding the concept of shift and how to thrive through it because we are a seasonal market. So that's just my take on that.
No, absolutely. Now, would you like to shift gears a bit? And I know the next section in this chapter is about the anatomy of a shift and
Sure.
ultimately what are some factors that can cause a shift. So do you want to touch on some of those?
Absolutely. So we know that supply and demand is absolutely what dictates the market, and buyers and sellers coming together is what a buyer is willing to pay and what a seller is willing to sell for is market value. So when somebody asks, "Hey, what's the value of my home?" What's the market reading? It really is market value is what a buyer is willing to pay and a seller is willing to sell for. So
Mhm.
when you have supply and demand and you have fewer items on the shelf, take it to a grocery store right now. It is a great
Mhm.
example, guys. I just saw the other day a 12 pack of sport waters for 15.99.
Yeah.
So I oh no, I'm sorry, it wasn't 15.90. It was 59.99.
Oh, wow.
Okay, fifty nine ninety
Yeah.
nine. I'm sorry, 15.99 wouldn't be so bad,
Yeah.
but $60 for because the demands for water right now is
Crazy.
very high.
Yep.
Toilet paper. I see people hiking up prices for toilet paper, paper towels, Clorox wipes. You
Yep.
can't even get toilet paper, in certain stores. So when there is a need for something and there's a lack of, then buyers are going to be willing to pay more for it. When there's a plethora of options, then the seller is going to take a hit on what they have to sell for because a buyer can say, well, if you're not going to sell to me, Mr. Seller, at this price, I'll just go to the guy next door because he's on the market also. And so that's just your typical supply and demand of gross domestic product. And
Mhm.
understand that housing is absolutely affected by gross domestic product. So um, when we look at the housing market, we can kind of just take those concepts out to the market as well, just as if you're going into a grocery store.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it comes down to how do individual agents really combat that or survive in that type of in this type of climate. One of the things is, as it's saying on page 12 here, which really resonated with me, it's really kind of talking about how that element of fear sometimes seeps into the mindset. And
Wow.
one thing that it says here that I really resonated with me, it says some individuals, though they do feel the fear, also know they're in an equal opportunity, unequal reward business, and it's essentially the 80-20 rule at work. So if you remember the 80-20 rule from the MREA, here it's saying 20% of people will do 80% of the business in any entrepreneurial endeavor. Those who understand this know that they must be better than average to earn the better than average rewards. So you have to
Yeah.
do different activities and do a little bit more than you normally would in a shift than
Hmm.
you would in a normal market.
Yeah, and maybe change a little bit. It is a matter of working a little bit harder, a little more strategic, definitely more planned. Um, and I just do believe that we see it every January. Every January, our top agents. I mean, I've been to multiple markets pretty much throughout New York and New Jersey.
Hmm.
And every January, your same top producers are freaking out that how are they going to do it
Yeah,
again? I have no listings. Oh my gosh, I got to get more listings. I only have X amount of listings.
yeah,
And so there's always that panic come into January. So,
yeah.
this is just a mind shift that, okay, here we are in March. And if we get knocked out for a few months where fewer sellers are coming on, we're not going to drop down to nothing.
Yep.
History does say that, and we have to pay attention and learn from lessons. Otherwise, we're just going to repeat similar mistakes. And were there people that did not survive the shift? Absolutely.
For
So,
sure. And no, I think that's a very excellent point. And I think that does also literally what you just said really should shift us now into the law of equilibrium and ultimately the resilience factor, because what you're saying is that not everyone will survive the shift, and the law of equilibrium is really stating that the available income in a market determines the number of agents in that market.
that's right.
So do you
That's
want to
right.
talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, people get into our market, and this is another perception that I've gathered from being in different markets as well. The last 5 years especially, people have gotten into the market as a real estate agent, as a real estate investor, got their real estate license for this amazing opportunity of the unlimited income that could be created in the real estate industry. And so we kind of got flooded with agents, and I know some of you would agree that you've had competition like you haven't had. And when I think you said the last section we were talking about, when the cookie jar is full and when listings and closings are happening, we don't pay attention to all the, oh, I should have got that listing. It's okay because I got the next one. And it could have been just a small little thing, or it was somebody new that came into the market. I remember when the last shift happened, I was with an agent and I said to her, at what point are you going to stop depending on those postcards that go out to that community when one of these new whippersnappers go out there and take your market share, because they're actually prospecting and not just marketing. And so I believe that we have been flooded with agents for the last couple of years. This will definitely cleanse out some of the agents that just got in it for maybe personal reasons or just added income. Yeah. Some of the investors are making their money on the investor side, which will knock them out of maybe taking that listing that their aunt is giving them. Maybe they will refer it to somebody who is super active in understanding this market. So as much as when income rises, more people get into it. That means you have more competition. You have to sharpen your axe. When income disappears, people go out faster than they came in. Absolutely. And that will give our agents the ability to have less competition and go in and really be a true consultant to these sellers and buyers.
For sure. So
and agents, I think, Matt, we have an amazing opportunity to help agents that are in and outside of our company, because if we could help somebody at Brand X take more listings so our agents can sell them to their buyers, or go and cultivate more buyers so our sellers in our world with our agents have potential buyers to buy, well then we're absolutely helping each other in a social distancing world.
Absolutely. So what would you say for that top agent right now, full-time agent, or somebody that's just getting into the industry? What would you say in terms of how important is it to focus on the units that they're capturing in this type of market, and how that then helps them focus on that as we would then go back on the upward swing out of the shift and back into the upside?
So Matt, what you're talking about is the resilience factor, and if you're in the book, guys, you can find that on page 15, kind of finishing off the first part of shift. And Gary says, here's the truth: everyone will, but anyone. It says, here's the truth: not everyone will, but everyone can. We all have the ability to go and take our unfair share of the market. Gary and Jay spoke about on, I believe it was Monday, how even in the worst times that we know in our recorded National Association of Realtor numbers, we went from about 6 million units down to a little over 4 million units. So we definitely took a hit, and yet it didn't go to zero, like I said before. So the one thing I can say is, when you're going into a shift, as Gary speaks about very intelligently, is if you were doing 40 units, if you were doing 10 units, if you were doing, some of our teams are doing 250 units. If that is the unit count that you are at this year in a shift like this, you need to focus on keeping that unit count. Because as you keep that unit count at what you did last year, and it may be delayed, it may be third and fourth quarter that you're picking up the units. If you can keep that unit count, you're actually gaining market share. So when the market starts to swing back up and shift back the other way, the pendulum, you will then start to focus on gaining market share. Awesome.
That's really that figure 9 on page 16 is really exactly what Mary Beth was talking about, how it's going from during a shift, you're maintaining the units or the percentage of market share, and then as it comes back out, you're getting a greater piece of the, there's more market share. So while your percentage is staying the same, the units are going to be greater.
And you're going to make more money.
Correct. So, and I think that also comes into play. Oh, hey, Lisa. So I think where that really comes into play is yesterday I was on a KW Connect Live class, and Jay Papasan was talking about resilience being a muscle and
Mhm.
really being something that you have to train and utilize that muscle regularly and not get sucked into fear, and to be able to learn how to manage stress better and to learn how to just manage situations differently. And I think that
Yeah.
that really is what this is all about. And I think the end of chapter one,
Well,
um,
he also says, he says the key to be resilient and on your toes, take the hit. You're gonna take a hit.
yep,
Expect the hit. Don't get disappointed because you get hit, because you have to expect it. Discipline your
yep,
disappointments. And it says take the hit, but don't get knocked out. Because it could be really easy. I also, in 16 years in the business, I will tell you, I have seen the agent that just decides they're going to throw a pity party for 2 weeks,
absolutely.
and it turns into a whole career getting thrown down the toilet. So it's easy to slip into that. So take the hit, expect it, and figure out how you're going to work it.
Yeah,
So
no, and I think that's exactly the end of page 17. It just says, are you ready? Are you willing? Let's get after it. And I think that that's,
yeah.
are you really committed? Are you ready? Are you willing? And I think that that's important to just get that mindset of like, you got to get it. You got to get after it.
Hey, and if you guys need a little pep talk, because I know that some of you are thinking, maybe I'm out, maybe I'm out. Don't do it, dude.
Yeah, no,
You
don't.
guys are some of the most educated agents
Yep,
in our industry.
yep,
And you have amazing market share. You have an amazing story to tell, even if you're a new agent, as to how we came into the market. We're 150 agents strong. We have great market share in our Wayne Township as well as our surrounding areas. If you need some market share information and you want Matt and I to run some broker metrics, please reach out to us.
mhm,
And honestly, if you need a pep talk, just text us to schedule a time. We'll throw a 30-minute coaching call and we'll just talk you through some challenges that you're having. We're here for you guys.
absolutely. And
All right.
just to close out this call, so basically today we covered part one of the shift book. We covered the anatomy of a shift, seasonality in business versus just economic shifts over a time period of a few years, the law
Mm-hmm.
of equilibrium, and the resilience factor. And then
That's right.
come next week on Monday, we will be diving into pages 23 to 27,
Mm-hmm.
or I think 29 maybe. Hold on, let me just double check that.
You should.
20, 20, yeah, 23 to 28, which is tactic number one. So we're going to be covering tactic number one on Monday, which is get real, get right, mindset, and action. Um, Mary Beth and I'll be reaching out to you probably over the weekend. We may try to do this live, so if you guys want to be a part of this Zoom call to be able to be
Yeah.
on with us, we'll be sending information out. I just can't promise for sure on Monday, but definitely at some point next week, if not Monday, we will be doing these live to just have more engagement and interaction.
Interaction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So hope you guys have a fantastic day, fantastic weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy. If you need anything, we're here for you.
Okay, guys.
Bye, guys.